Hey guys, so today I thought I'd share a bit of wisdom, something that I particularly struggled with when I was growing up, and it certainly affected a fair few years of my life. Um, and the title of the video essentially gives it away. It was possibly the worst thing and also the best thing that ever happened in my life. Um, when I was younger, um, I had all these, aspirations and whatnot, and I kind of thought of myself as, I didn't have anything wrong with me. I was fit, healthy, my body was great. I didn't necessarily have any disabilities and whatnot. And from a very young age, I always wanted to join the army. Now, this probably came along from old war movies and video games that I played, but from a very young age, it was certainly something that I definitely wanted to do. It was what I aimed for my whole life. So much so that even my brother, he ended up joining the army before I did. Me and him were training together for quite a long amount of time, and he actually joined the army about a year and a half before I was supposed to join. I was about maybe 15 at the time, and my brother was in, and I was still training. Doing running, various exercises, push-ups, and whatnot. And I remember one day I was with my dad and I was doing some sit ups. And he said to me, he said, "You're not sitting straight." I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "I am." And he said, "Hold on a second. Stand up then. Stand up." So I stood up and he got me to take my shirt off and he looked at my back and he kind of went speechless a bit. He was like, "What the hell is going on here?" Now I'll put a picture of my back, and I had no clue what was wrong with me or anything. And straight away, we looked up online what it was. And it turns out I had scoliosis. At the time, I didn't know this, but it was quite a bad case of scoliosis. And I didn't lose complete hope because it said online that, you could join the army with, I think it was like a 20-degree curve or something like that. And I looked at it, I was like, there's no way that's over 20 degrees, it'll be fine. And I remember we went to the doctors and spoke to them, and it was after my first X-ray, so it was the day where I was going to find out the news, like whether I could join or not. And I remember the doctor was speaking to me. He pulled the things out, and they'd already measured it. And now I knew that it was 20 degrees. That was the threshold that I could join. And he said to me, he was like, "Oh, the curvature is 50 degrees." And the doctor continued to speak to me for some amount of time, but after he said it was 50 degrees, everything just went quiet. I sort of just blanked out. I didn't really hear anything else that he said. Because at that point, my whole lifelong dream had essentially been crushed. It was completely over. There was no chance I was going to join the army because the only way to correct that curvature at that point would have been surgery. And so, yeah, it was a bit of a downward spiral from there. I sort of lost all care in the world, essentially. I became very depressed. I was, top of my class in most lessons in school, and my grades completely dropped off. I went from getting, A's and A stars to getting barely scraping C's. It was a wonder I actually got enough grades to get into college. But yeah, it was a really rough time of my life because I put all my eggs in one basket, and I essentially thought that because I couldn't do what I dreamed of doing, that was it over. And I'd had this tunnel vision of that was what I was going to do. It's what and even my brother was already in the army. That sort of gave me even more motivation to join. And yeah, it was just crushed in an instant. And I got heavily involved in drugs, and I really didn't care whether I was alive or not. I wasn't necessarily addicted to one substance in particular, but I was more so addicted to not being sober. I would do anything in order to, not be in this body or in this mind, essentially. And it got really out of hand. I caused a lot of stress for my family, which, I'm still sorry about, and I still feel bad about. But it took a fair few years to sort of overcome that difficulty in my life. I didn't really know what I was doing for a few years. I got the surgery when I was 16. They corrected my scoliosis about maybe a year after diagnosing me, because the curvature was getting rapidly worse and worse. And essentially, if scoliosis gets too bad, you get like internal damage. I think the first thing that would happen is one of your lungs would collapse and whatnot. So they did the surgery. I recovered quite well. It took me about a year to recover, and I had to resit a year in school. Thank God one of my best friends resat as well. So it was sort of me and him against the world in school. But yeah, so resat school, finished school, and came out, went into work. And thankfully, after a sort of a year of being in work, I started working with some of my friends. And those friends, they had a transport company. That's a story for another day, but it sort of changed my outlook on life a little bit. I went from just thinking, oh, well, I'm going to work for someone for the rest of my life, to thinking, well, I want to work with my friends and do business together. Because, I mean, most jobs that you do, your boss doesn't really care about you. And at the end of the day, it's a lot more satisfying when you're doing a job and you have a big end goal. And ultimately, our goal as friends working together was to be as successful as possible. It didn't work out in the end, but it changed my outlook on work. And when I came away from them, I sort of thought, well, maybe I could do bigger things. And of course, content creation came along. Start of 2022, my videos started picking up, and they did pretty well. And if you're a regular viewer, you can see how well it's doing. If you're new here, I could give you a little bit of a rundown, but essentially, I started making funny car videos, posting them online because I thought they were fun, and it did really well. And so far, in the last year and a half, I've visited 26 countries. I've been able to do charity work, driving vehicles to Ukraine and whatnot. And none of this would have been possible if it weren't for, my success online, essentially. Now, anyways, let's go back to the start. When I was younger, I'd probably say about 5 years of my life were put down the drain because of one thing that happened to me, that being the scoliosis with my back. Now, at the time, of course, I thought that everything was over, and I thought that was my best option because I was so passionate about the army. Why should I try and do anything else? But at the end of the day, when one door closes, there's still so many other doors that are open. And even if I went through that door and joined the army, there's no way in hell I would be able to have the life that I have now. And I look back and I think, you know what it is? It was a really horrible thing to go through, and it really did put me in the gutters. But it was also the best thing to possibly happen in my life, because if it wasn't for my back surgery and not being able to join the army, I wouldn't be able to have made the friends that I have. I wouldn't have been able to travel the way I have, and I wouldn't have been able to live the life that I have created for myself now. Now, if you ask me if I'm happy now, yes, I'm very happy. Would I have been happy in the army? Possibly. But if I could see that alternate route that I have went down, and I was in the army and I knew that that was a possibility, if that hadn't had happened, I would think, send me back. I don't want to join the army anymore. So yeah, I thought I'd share that with you guys. The moral of the story is essentially, things all happen for a reason. And although you might not see an alternate path or a way out of the situation that you're in, it's very hard when you put yourself into that mindset to keep your eyes open and look for these other doors. Because it took me a few years to get over that. I only started really enjoying life again when I turned 21. I'm 24 now. I'm still young. I mean, to a teenager, I'm old, but I feel very young. But yeah, I hope that can help some of you guys. You know, if you're going through hardships and whatnot, it's important to remember that just because one thing has failed, you know, you've got so many other opportunities. And for God's sake, that happened to me when I was 15. How young are you when you're 15? I'm 24 now. That was nearly 10 years ago. You can't look that far in the future. And I get a lot of people, they always ask me, they're like, oh, you know, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I've got no direction. And some of these people from the ages of 16 up to 20, it's not a race either. You've got plenty time to decide what you're going to do. And don't take this as an example, but me personally, I don't have any qualifications. Probably the only grade that I hold that's even valuable was I got a B in A-level art. Most of you probably don't even know I do artwork because it's just a hobby pretty much. But yeah, I hope that helped you guys. Cheers.